Hi, Chuck Huber here for the Stata YouTube channel. Today I'd like to show you how to do contrasts with the contrast command after you fit a regression model. So I'm going to be using the nHanes2L dataset, and you can open that by typing webuse nHanes2L. I'm going to start by fitting a linear regression model for bpsystol, which is, I need to spell it correctly, bpsystol, which is systolic blood pressure, and I'm going to include the categorical covariate health status. Okay, so I'm going to press enter, and that shows me the coefficients for, the estimated coefficients for health status. Now let's say that I'd like to compute a contrast for health stat. What I can do is go to statistics and go way down to the bottom of the menu and select post estimation. And I'm going to move this up here to the top, and I'm going to expand the little plus next to test, contrast, and comparison of parameter estimates. And right here, there is a choice for contrast. So I'm going to move this off to the side so I can see the output, and I'm going to double click on contrast to open the contrast dialog box. So in the main tab, it asks me which factor variable terms I'd like to compute the contrast for. Well, there's only health status in the model. So I'm going to click that and click submit. And if I look here, the command then is contrast health stat, and it shows me the contrast. It's an F statistic and a p-value testing that all four of those coefficients are simultaneously equal to 0. Technically what it's doing is comparing each of those coefficients to the base category, which is the base category is constrained to be 0 because it's the referent category. So that would be a reference group contrast. Now there are a lot of different kinds of contrast that we could do, and if we see, we can click on this little 3-dot box. I did that rather quickly there. Click next to the factor terms, click this little 3-dot box, and that allows me to create different contrasts. So I'm going to select the variable health stat, and then I can choose what kind of contrast that I'd like to do. The default is differences from a reference category, but there are others, such as differences from next level, differences from previous level, differences from grand mean, and so forth. I'm not going to read the entire list to you. So let's try differences from grand mean, just to try something different. So that's going to compare each of the coefficients to the grand mean. And I don't need to select a base level in this case because the grand mean is going to be the comparison group. So I'm going to add this contrast to the list of contrasts here at the bottom. Now notice it placed a G dot in front of health stat. G dot is the prefix for a grand mean contrast. Okay, so let's click OK. And then click submit. And now, if we scroll up, the command is contrast g.hlthstat. So again, the G prefix tells Stata we want to see a grand means contrast. What this will do then is compare each of the categories to the grand mean. So the mean in the excellent group versus the grand mean, the mean in the very good group versus the grand mean. And we get a test for each of those, as well as a joint test for all of them simultaneously, that all of those differences are simultaneously equal to 0. We also see the actual contrast, the difference in those cell means, the difference between the excellent group mean and the grand mean, the difference between the very good mean and the grand mean. So those contrasts and their standard errors and confidence intervals are reported here at the bottom. If we wanted to see t-statistics and p-values, you can go over to reporting and check effects tables, and then check this box next to show effects table with confidence intervals and p-values. So if I do that and click submit, now if I scroll over, now my output shows the contrast standard error as well as the t-statistic and p-value and the confidence intervals. Now these t-statistics and p-values are a little bit redundant because the square of those t-statistics is going to equal the f-statistic, and the p-values will be the same. But it's there if you prefer to report them as t-statistics. Okay. Now we've done a lot of comparisons here, or multiple comparisons anyway, and we might want to adjust for that fact. So we can go back to the reporting tab and select do not adjust for multiple comparisons. I could change that to one of the methods for adjusting for multiple comparisons. So let's select bonferroni. It's one of the oldest, probably the oldest, and it's a little on the conservative side, but it's also very popular. So let's click submit. And now we can see that the t-statistic and p-value are adjusted for that bonferroni correction as well as the confidence intervals. So the p-values are going to get a little larger and the confidence intervals are going to get a little wider because we've adjusted for multiple comparisons. Okay. Now, one of the fun things you can do with contrasts is do them in the context of margins. So if I go back to the post estimation selector, I can select contrast of margins. So I'm going to double click this. And again, I select the factor variables, the terms to compute the margins for. So I'm going to click on this 3-dot box again, and I'm going to select the variable health stat. And let's do our grand mean contrast again. So I'm going to select that, select add to contrast list, and then click OK. And then I'm going to click submit. And now if I look at the command, if I scroll back up, the command is now margins g.hlthstat, comma contrast. So I'm doing this contrast in the context of margins. Now, why do I care about that? Well, one of the fun things I can do with this is I can go back to my post estimation selector and I can plot these contrasts. So I'm going to press the minus to collapse test, and then I'm going to click the plus to expand marginal effects estimated means interactions. And here I'm going to select profile plots after marginal analysis. So I'm going to move this over to keep it out of the way. Double click profile plots. Now here, under the dimensions in the main tab, variables that define the x-axis, I'm going to select health stat. And then I'm going to click submit. And this will create a basic profile plot for this. So I can see each of the comparisons, excellent versus mean, very good versus mean, and so forth. So the categories or the comparisons are on the horizontal axis. The contrasts themselves are on the vertical axis. I find it a little easier to read, and other people do. So if you want, you can swap the x and y axis. So all we've done is switch those. So now the contrast, the linear contrast, is on the horizontal axis, and the comparisons are on the vertical axis. We may also want to get rid of those connecting lines. So if we click on the Plots tab, we can change plot type to scatter, okay, and then click Submit. And that removes those connecting lines. To me, it makes it a little bit easier to read. And if I wanted to, I could add a vertical reference line at the null. So I'm going to select X-axis and click Reference Lines, and then check the box that says Add Lines to Graph at Specified X Values. So I'm going to select or type 0, click Accept, and Submit. And now I see a null line at 0. So that would be no difference between the mean of the category and the grand mean. Okay? So those are some of the things that you can do with contrast. I hope this was helpful. Thanks for stopping by.